You wake up and the first thing you do is reach for your phone. Before your eyes adjust, before you remember who you are, you scroll, you check, you compare. And somewhere between the notifications and the noise, you forget what you actually wanted from today. This isn't laziness. This is something quieter, something that's been building for months. You're not tired because you worked hard. You're tired because you're always halfway between doing something and wishing you were doing something else. And that split, that constant split, it's draining you in ways you can't even name yet. You sit down to work and suddenly everything else becomes interesting. The desk needs organizing, your water bottle needs refilling. That message can't wait. You're not avoiding the work because you're lazy. You're avoiding it because starting feels like stepping into cold water. And you've trained yourself to wait until you feel ready. But ready never comes on its own. It's a feeling you create by starting, not before. You keep thinking motivation will arrive like a package at your door, so you wait. And while you wait, the day passes. The work piles up. The guilt builds. And you tell yourself tomorrow will be different. But tomorrow you do the same thing. You open the laptop, you stare, you refresh. And the cycle continues because no one ever taught you that action creates clarity, not the other way around. You think you need a plan, a perfect system, the right app, the right moment. But what you actually need is to stop negotiating with yourself every single time something matters. You say yes when you mean no. Not because you're kind, because you're afraid of the tension that honesty might create. So you overcommit. You stretch yourself across too many people and too many things that don't actually matter to you. And then you resent them, not because they asked too much, but because you gave what you didn't have. You treat your time like it's infinite, like you can always catch up later, but later you're exhausted, you're bitter. You're wondering why everyone else seems to have boundaries, and you're still running on empty trying to make everyone comfortable. The truth is, you've been trading your peace for approval. And approval is expensive. It costs you sleep. It costs you energy. It costs you the life you say you want but never protect. Every yes to something that doesn't matter is a no to something that does. You scroll before bed. Just 5 minutes, you tell yourself. 30 minutes later, you're watching someone's morning routine in a country you'll never visit. You're learning about a problem you didn't know existed. You're angry about something that happened to someone you've never met. And then you wonder why you can't sleep, why your mind won't stop, why you wake up already tired. You've been feeding your brain chaos and calling it relaxation. You're not resting, you're numbing. There's a difference. Rest restores you. Numbing just delays the feeling. And the feeling always comes back. Usually at 3 in the morning when you're staring at the ceiling replaying every conversation you've ever had. You think the problem is your thoughts. But the problem is, you never gave yourself actual silence. You never let your nervous system reset. You just switched from one screen to another. From work to entertainment to distraction to exhaustion. And called it a day. You eat standing up, in front of the TV, scrolling through your phone, barely tasting anything. You're not even hungry most of the time. You're just bored, anxious, looking for a break that food can't actually give you. And then an hour later you feel worse. Not because of what you ate, but because you weren't even present for it. You consumed without enjoying. You rushed through something that could have been peaceful. That could have been a reset. But you treated it like another task, another thing to get through. Your body is trying to tell you something. That you're moving too fast. That you're not listening. That hunger isn't the only thing you're trying to fix with food. But you keep eating the same way. Hoping it'll feel different. It won't. Not until you slow down enough to actually be there. You wait for the right time to start, the right mood, the right energy level, and because that moment never comes, nothing changes. You stay in the same patterns, the same routines, the same frustrations, wondering why life feels so heavy when you're barely doing anything hard. It's because you're doing the hardest thing every single day. You're fighting yourself, negotiating, justifying, convincing yourself that comfort now is worth the regret later. And it never is. You know this. You've lived it. But here's the truth. Discipline isn't about punishing yourself. It's about respecting yourself enough to do what you said you would, even when you don't feel like it. Most people think discipline is rigid, cold, joyless, but it's the opposite. Discipline is what gives you freedom. Freedom from guilt, from the constant mental loop of things you should be doing but aren't, from the shame of knowing you're capable of more but settling for less. When you do what you said you'd do, you trust yourself again. And that trust changes everything. You stop second-guessing. You stop spiraling. You just move. And movement creates momentum. And momentum makes hard things feel possible. Not because they got easier, but because you got stronger. The boring habits aren't glamorous. They don't make good content. Nobody's going to celebrate you for going to bed on time, for saying no to plans that drain you. But those habits are the foundation. They're what make everything else possible. They're the difference between living reactively and living intentionally, between surviving your days and actually building something. You think you'll feel different when you achieve something, when you hit the goal, when you finally get the thing you've been chasing. But the feeling you're looking for isn't at the finish line. It's in the process, in showing up when it's boring, when no one's watching, when it doesn't feel like it matters, because that's when it matters most. That's when you're building the person you want to become. Not in the highlight moments, in the quiet ones. The ones where you choose the harder right over the easier wrong, where you protect your time, your energy, your attention, and you stop giving it away to things that don't deserve it. You stop waiting for permission, for motivation, for the perfect moment. Comfort is a slow poison. It doesn't kill you in one moment. It kills you in 1,000 small compromises, in every time you chose easy over meaningful. And one day you wake up and realize you've been half asleep for years. You've been busy, but not building, distracted, but not resting, moving, but not progressing. And the worst part is you can't blame anyone, because you made every choice, every small decision that led you here. But that also means you can make different ones, starting now, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, now. Because the version of you that you respect is built in moments like this, in the decision to stop scrolling and start moving, to stop waiting and start doing, to stop negotiating and start committing. The boring habits don't make life exciting. They make life manageable, and manageable becomes easy. Not because the work disappears, but because you're no longer fighting yourself to do it. You wake up and you move. You eat and you're present. You work and you focus. You rest and you actually recover. And suddenly the chaos that used to define your days starts to fade. Not because everything got simpler, but because you got clearer on what matters and what doesn't. On who you're becoming and who you're leaving behind. The person who needed everything to be perfect before starting, who needed to feel motivated to move, who needed permission to take up space. That person doesn't serve you anymore, and you don't owe them loyalty. You owe yourself the truth, that you're capable of more than you're currently doing. So here's the question. Not what you're going to do tomorrow, but what you're going to do in the next 10 minutes, because that's all this ever is. One decision, one moment, one choice to honor the person you said you wanted to be. And then another. The boring habits aren't a system. They're a practice, a daily return to the things that matter even when they don't feel urgent, especially when they don't feel urgent, because urgency will always scream, and importance will always whisper. And if you only respond to what's loud, you'll spend your whole life reacting, never creating. So what's it going to be? The same loop, the same excuses, the same quiet disappointment, or something different, not perfect, just different. Just one small thing that proves to you that you're still in control.